This is episode 33 with Dr. Michelle Norris. Welcome to the Doc Fitness Podcast, where it's all about developing your mindset, training and nutritional knowledge so you can lose body fat and build muscle effectively while still living a real life. I am your host, David O'Connor. Now let's get into the show. How are we keeping, guys? And a big welcome back to the Doc Fitness Podcast. And today we have a returning guest on the show, Dr. Michelle Norris, where she was on previously for episode 17, where we talked through running your first 5 to 10k. Michelle actually raised a topic around sports bras back in episode 17, and today we spent this full episode going through just that, because there's some massively important topics here that ladies need to be aware of when it comes to sports bra for pain, performance, and things like breast sag over time as well, which I think personally, if I was a lady, I wouldn't want that happening over time. And just, I was asked by a couple of ladies in the gym here, Dave, will you do a video on sports bras, because we haven't a clue about them or how to pick them, or for bigger bust women, what do we do, etc., etc. And to be honest, I was like, okay, I feel confident doing a little basic video, but I was like, no, this has to be turned into a proper podcast episode rather than just a short little video you'll throw up on Instagram, and get Michelle on the show to talk through it properly. So as you'll hear from Michelle on the episode, she is now a research fellow in LERO, which is the Irish Research Centre, and she's going deep into stuff around breast tech, but I will let her explain that in a little bit more detail when I invite her on. And guys, the show notes for this episode will be over at docfitnessonline/episode 33. And what I've actually done after recording this episode with Michelle is I've gone ahead and worked with Michelle in the background to put together an actual 5-step sports bra cheat sheet infographic that you can download on the show notes page, right? If you pop in your name and email, you'll get that infographic downloaded straight into your inbox. And as well, if you're not already on my weekly emails, it's a chance for you to get onto my weekly emails as well, where I pop out 2 to 3 emails a week, basically around nutritional stuff, training stuff, mindset stuff, all based on around to move you forward. And like, don't worry, this is not super sciencey stuff right like that. It's basically me having a chat with people, short emails, 400 to 700 words, where I kind of get my points across. And sometimes there's a little bit of crack to read throughout the week as well. So it's they're not super boring, is what I'm trying to say. So you can download that on the show notes page over at docfitnessonline/episode 33. But for now, let's welcome Michelle back on the show. Michelle, welcome back on the podcast.
Thank you very much. Good to be back.
Yes, it is indeed. And I was researching over our last episode, and back in episode 17, when you were on, you were Senior Research Associate in the Sports and Exercise Science Department in the University of Portsmouth, if that serves me correct.
Yeah.
What has happened since then, Michelle?
Since then, I have now kind of moved somewhat in field and moved home. So I'm back in Ireland, back in the University of Limerick. I'm a research fellow now in LERO, so the Irish Software Research Centre. And kind of I've mixed all my backgrounds into kind of one project now. So I'm doing a project called Breast Tech. So it's increasing physical activity in breast cancer patients and survivors through technology enabled care. So it's kind of a mix of everything from what I did in University of Portsmouth and my PhD in Limerick as well. It's kind of all come into one project. So something a bit different now.
Brilliant. And when you were in the University of Portsmouth, just kind of a recap for listeners, you were doing a postdoc in breast movement. Was that right?
Yeah. So I was in the research group in breast health, and we kind of looked at everything. It was like generally breast biomechanics, but we'd look at breast pain, we'd look at education, anything kind of breast science. And my project then specifically was looking at breast skin and skin strain, which we'll probably like touch on today, but that's all linked back to, say, breast movement or inadequate breast support, so things like that.
Hence why we're going through sports bras in this episode. But
yes,
I suppose just before we get into that, like, I was trying to do a bit of research myself in it as well, because like obviously our ladies here in the gym, they're very eager to listen to this episode, and it was them that sparked this episode because they were literally just asking me about it. Would I do a video on it? I was like, oh, I know exactly the person. But was what you're doing, Michelle, like, is what you were doing back then? Is it rare? Like, because I haven't seen any other universities do this, or I haven't, like, if anything at all. Like, do you know what I mean? it's kind of like nearly first of its kind type thing, is it? Or would I be wrong in saying that?
No, yeah, it's a very unique field. That's probably why I went into the position at the start. It was kind of intriguing and very unique. University of Portsmouth, the research group there would be one of the world leading groups, along with, there's a group down the University of Wollongong, and then there's another group in Asia but we all do kind of different fields, to kind of touch into different areas of breast science and breast biomechanics and that. Predominantly at the University of Portsmouth, it's a lot of sports bra testing we'd be well known for. So if you see a lot of bras will have 75%, say, bounce reduction on the labels and tags and things like that. A lot of them will say working with the University of Portsmouth, things like that. So that would be one of our big areas. And I guess another one would be, we do a lot of breast science education kind of with younger, so adolescents, girls in schools and things like that. That'd be another big area we do. And then breast pain. So yeah, it's just, there's only probably about 3 groups in the world, and then we all look at kind of different aspects. So it's good, like, but the research out there is only probably, we were working about 12 years, by the time I left. So it's very new compared to when you think of something like, the research into ACL injuries or running or any of those topics. That goes back with years and decades and decades. It's very new kind of to look into.
Yeah, that's why it's so cool too, like, because you're not really shooting in the dark anymore, and now we have a bit of data to go off that you can recommend to people for things like, so it's interesting as hell, like, and I suppose, that leads me into the first question, Michelle, like, why you know and we know, and I know from the education you gave me in it before, but like, why are sports bras so important, in a general sense, I suppose?
I guess when you think about why they're important, there's 2 aspects to it, and the first being like the biomechanics and why we need them in that side, and then the other side is kind of just the psychology maybe, and that's influenced by the biomechanics. So if you think about the biomechanics, when we look at the chest wall and that, you've got the pecs that are underlying the breast. So a lot of people kind of think of breast maybe as muscles or whatever else, but they're not. So breasts are made up of just fatty tissue and glandular tissue. So when we think of milk ducts and how they're used for breastfeeding and things like that. So they're composed of predominantly those two materials, but they're not supported. So a kind of scientific term, what we would use is a wobbling mass. But the pecs actually don't give them support. So the 2 primary support functions or supporting structures of the breast are breast skin and the Cooper's ligaments. But they give very limited natural support to the breast. So if we don't have natural support, then we have to put on external support. So that's why we've got sports bras. So that's the biomechanics of it. So if you've got little support when you run or when you jump, you get a lot of independent movement on the torso of the breast. And then the knock-on effect of that is maybe the psychological and I guess from our side, the why people do or don't exercise is that you get breast pain or you get embarrassment. If it's younger girls, we see they won't exercise if they've got breast bounce. So again, you come back to the embarrassment of it. So if you put on an external support, then you reduce pain, you reduce embarrassment, and then you can see an increase in sports participation. So it's kind of a knock-on effect from the biomechanics onto how it makes people feel, the psychology of it, and then whether they're actually going to engage. So it's a kind of a circle of, if you don't wear maybe a sports bra, then you get pain or breast bounce, and then you don't exercise. So it's just kind of a vicious circle.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose touching on one thing as well, like you said there, what the breasts are made up of, it's why a lot of ladies complain when they get into like the health and fitness side of things, they literally lose breast size over time the more fat they lose. And it's just a bit of education for the ladies who look, breast might come down because there's a lot of fat tissue in breast itself. It's a funny one. In terms of moving on from there, Michelle, you were saying predominantly they support the breast, but like, and reduce pain and embarrassment. Is there anything else there?
I guess you're looking at, there's a lot of knock-on effects. I mean, breast damage. So if you think that the supporting structures are the skin and the Cooper's ligaments. So when I talk about ligaments, I'm not talking like bone-to-bone ligaments. It's basically like fibrous tissue. I think I said to you before, if you think of the kind of tissue that, or what you see on a chicken breast, if you're dissecting a chicken breast for your dinner or something, you've got this white kind of sheety material. So that's not giving a lot of support. But if we talk about possible breast damage, if you don't support the skin and the Cooper's ligaments and they get strained too much. Like anything, if you have a ruler and you keep bending it, if it comes to a point of fracture, then that's irreversible. So that is damage then. And it's kind of new research, because it's really hard to research this, because you can't ask in modern society really women to not wear a bra for a longitudinal time to then study the effects of not wearing a bra or inadequate support. It's just really hard to study. But there's thoughts that this can lead to breast sag. So you see a migration of the breasts towards the ground. I mean, if we talk on an everyday basis, if you don't wear a bra, you've got gravity alone is pushing on the breasts. So you may get breast damage from gravity, and then if you put in exercise and a lack of support there, you could see more kind of strain on these structures. So that's kind of one side of it. And then there's massive performance effects on it. If you think about Simona Halep, she's currently the number 4, I think, in the world for tennis. So she got to number 1 there in the last few years, but she had a breast reduction when she was 17. And she's kind of quoted as saying that her breast got in the way, that she felt she couldn't react as quick. Her tennis coaches have made comments that she's much better now not having larger breasts, because they were getting in the way. So performance side of it. And you see it with maybe rowers, anything that where you've got your arms maybe going across your body or using your upper body a lot, where you think tennis, I mean, it's a massive implication where you've got that twisting and movement, kind of upper body movement the whole time. Other things, it changes the way you perform if you're running. So a lack of support will change. We see, like anecdotally, we would test a lot of women on treadmills. Running is kind of one of our go-to activities when I was in Portsmouth. And you'd see that women would shorten their gait a lot. So they begin to run in smaller steps, because you're trying to attenuate any forces, because obviously you're trying to reduce breast movement with a lack of support.
And just for the listeners then that wouldn't really have a clue what kind of about that, what effect does running in smaller steps have then, though, for someone who's running? Like, why is that not great, we'll say?
Yeah, so this is kind of a whole forefoot or heel striking or mid striking and maybe stress fracture. I mean, there's a whole argument that goes into changing your gait from something that you don't normally do. So generally, if you change to a smaller stride, you can see people change to running on the tops of their toes, so forefoot strike. Whereas with longer strides, you tend to heel strike, which is what kind of the majority of the population would do. So basically anything that you're changing, there's obviously increased risk maybe of injury in the short term, because you haven't allowed for this long-term change, say, to come in. You haven't practiced it. You know, it's like changing anything. You can also change then your breathing. You know, breathing habits change. Just any kind of change from what you normally do can have different impacts. So you change your ground reaction forces, so how you're striking the ground. So it actually can have a massive change on your running profile. And then if you change the way you run, you might change the way your muscles are activated in your upper body, because now you're changing what's happening at your feet is affecting the rest of your body, if that makes sense. So you might tighten up. We see a lot of women, basically what we call it is tighten up. So if you decrease support, so if we give them a everyday bra or ask them to run bare breasted, which we would do as well, you'll see that they'll do smaller steps. They'll try and attenuate the bounce, say, so when they land on the ground, they'll kind of lower themselves down, but they'll also restrict, so their arms will go really tight by their side. So they tend to restrict their upper body then, because they're just trying to decrease any kind of breast movement, because it's associated with pain and it's not kind of normal, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, it was funny because after I was chatting to you about setting up this podcast last week, I actually, I think it was the day after, I mentioned this in my story, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but the day after I was driving along and came across this lady I've seen a bit on the road, and she's a small petite lady, like literally hammers herself into the road whenever I see her running. It's just technique. There's no technique there. It's just all over the shop. Knees are even caving in. You could, you know, there's just so much wrong. You just want to pull her aside and like, look, let's just do this and get her better, you know. But and I judging by but my best guess is she's not doing it to run competitions. I said she's just doing it to keep in shape, you know. But not wearing any fucking sports bra. It looked like she wasn't even wearing any support at all. And you're saying like this is kind of new research in terms of like breast skin strain and breast sag, but like it makes sense though, doesn't it? Like if you have someone who's not wearing sports bras or little support and fucking tits are going everywhere in a running session or a gym session, over time it's kind of like yeah, look, things might sag a little bit over time. To me, it makes sense. I know, is that a too simplistic way of looking at it? Because you're saying there's not much research behind it yet. But like, I think what you were saying as well, Michelle, like when you were checking out ladies running on a treadmill without a bra, was there a certain degree of movement or something like that you were saying the last day as well? I can't really remember what the exact kind of...
Yeah,
so obviously it depends on with the size of the breast as well, obviously. Yeah.
So there's like anywhere from, we see like if you're talking a smaller breasted woman, like A, B cups, kind of anywhere from maybe 5 centimeters, but anywhere up to 21 centimeters. So when I was a sportsman, I had the largest breast size I tested on a treadmill, bare breasted, would have been a 36 double G. So we did cover a range of sizes, and you'd see anywhere from, in the literature, I guess, 5 to 21 centimeters, which is a lot. So that's kind of a range of motion, of breast movement. And then I guess what people don't account for is that it's, we call it a figure of 8 of movement. So everybody kind of thinks of breast moving in the vertical direction. That's what like breast bounce might be, or things are associated with this vertical movement, but it's 3-dimensional movement. So 50% of the movement is in the vertical direction, so this up-down bounce, but then the other 50% is split 25% in side-to-side and 25% in the forward-back. So you're basically looking to restrict a 3-dimensional profile of the breast moving, not just this up-down. Not just kind of trying to keep the breast down, but you're also trying to bring them in towards your chest wall and then stop them moving from side to side as well. Yeah,
so like I suppose the biggest 3 things, again, come back to the why behind it. It will be pain. We mentioned performance. That's gonna trickle over into resistance training as well. Like, you know, if people are feeling more comfortable and they've no pain and breasts are not going all over the shop, it's going to make sense that they might have a better training session. And then you have breast sag. So they're 3 massive eye openers on it. From my perspective, like, you know, the breast skin strain thing that you opened my eyes to, I was like, wow, ladies are going to want to hear that, like, you know, because I know some, like, I was even putting on a few polls on my Instagram and just seeing the percentage of ladies that whoever voted, the amount of number who voted, versus who wears a sports bra, who doesn't. And a few people that don't wear them then were getting on to me privately saying they don't because they're uncomfortable, or they cause them like neck pain, back pain, some people were mentioning as well. So I suppose that leads us into the next question, is like what to look for, I suppose, when you're picking out a sports bra. Michelle.
Yeah, so we get a lot of women coming in saying that they wear sports. Same as what you said there, they're wearing sports maybe, or they're not wearing sports because they can't find the right one. So the market is massive now for sports bras. So as much as you can't find the right one, you probably haven't tried on enough different variations. And there's really good websites now where you can buy like different ones for different sizes and things. So it is going to take a bit of looking into what's out there, but there's a much bigger marketplace now than there was. So that's first of all, but there are kind of 5 steps that we say to look for when looking for kind of the best fitting and a suitable sports bra. So the first one, and this kind of goes for an everyday bra as well, it's just slightly different variations for a sports bra. So first one is the underband. So the band should fit firmly around the chest. It shouldn't be sliding or moving. It shouldn't be too tight or uncomfortable or affect your breathing, and it should be level the whole way around. So a big thing with the band is that your support should come from the band. I think a lot of women may think that it comes from the bra straps, and you see bra straps that dig in and cause like divots in the shoulders and that. Your support for your everyday bra or your sports bra should not be coming from your straps. Your straps are just there to keep the sports bra up, but the support should be coming from the underband. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to do with the cups. So some sports bras will have cups, individual cups. So they're called encapsulation bras. Some might have kind of one large panel across the front, but whatever kind of panel or cups it has, there shouldn't be any breast tissue coming out the sides of that. So all the breast tissue should be enclosed in it. Third thing is underwire. So if you have, especially with encapsulation sports bras, they might have underwire. So they're kind of built like everyday bras. So the same as with an everyday bra, it should follow the natural crease of the breast, and it shouldn't be lying on any breast tissue. So you should be able to feel all around the underwire, and there shouldn't be any breast tissue underneath. If it is, then it's not the right size or it's not the right fit for you.
So that Michelle, again, the underwire, is that...
Yeah.
I'm getting a bit confused myself. I'm just taking down notes here myself. Is underwire of the breast cup, is it not the underband?
Yeah, so it's inbuilt in the cups.
Oh,
so
yes, sorry.
This kind of comes back to, like, there's three predominant types of sports bras. So there is your compression bra, which is like your crop top, basically. So the idea of that is to bring the breasts kind of in towards the chest wall and to keep them there. That is basically kind of how that works. And then in general, maybe crop tops mightn't have adjustable straps. They mightn't have an adjustable underband. You might pull them over your head, is kind of a predominant feature of those. The second one is your encapsulation. So this might look like an everyday bra, but kind of with more support, say. And so this aims to separate the breast mass basically into two individual breasts that are held into cups. So we can see these as recommended for maybe women with larger breasts might like these better, because you're kind of effectively halving the mass into two kind of pockets. And then the third one is your combination. So this bra will have an element of separating the breasts while also bringing them back into the chest wall. So it might have, say, two inbuilt cups, but also a panel across the front is a way to be able to identify this.
Like, would that not be considered then superior to the other two, no?
It depends. It really depends on your preference, what activities you're doing. But it does kind of take elements of both of the other ones. So depending on who you are, you might find the combination is kind of the best. And biomechanically, we do see the combination kind of working really well at the moment in the marketplace. So, the other thing were for any bra, the front of the bra. So it should kind of cover again all of the breast tissue. And if it's an encapsulation bra or a bra that has, say, two individual cups, or a part of it that has anything, it should be lying flat against your chest. So you'll see bras that kind of pop out from the chest wall. That means it's not fitting you right. And you might need to increase the cup size. So it should be sitting flat against the chest wall. And then the straps are kind of the last thing. So they should be adjusted so that they can help support the breast, but they're not too tight. Again, they shouldn't be causing divots in your shoulders. You'll have seen this probably before in women, where you kind of see this kind of indent in the shoulders. It shouldn't be there. The support should be coming from the underband, and then the straps should be just holding kind of the bra into place, if that makes sense.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I think that was a big issue just from chatting to actually some of the ladies on the gym floor here. The straps were, I think the straps were pulling on her neck, and it was causing her neck issues then when she was running and doing resistance training stuff as well. So interesting. So just to kind of recap over those, Michelle, the 5 steps. So the underband is the most important part. That kind of supports nearly everything type thing, is this? Is that right?
It's like a shelf. It's supposed to act like a shelf, basically. Yeah.
Number 2 is the cups, which could be encapsulation. It could be one panel, like the combinations or the combination. So the compression, encapsulation, or combination. And that needs to cover all the breast tissue.
Yeah. There should be no bulging at the sides or up the top. You'd see that a lot. And if you kind of look side on, so say if you're wearing an everyday bra, and if you look side on and you can see kind of that the cups are even pressing into the bra or into the breast and there's kind of bulging, then you probably are wearing the wrong size bra. So that's kind of a good indicator to go from to even fitting sports bras and that then on. And
then the underwire is the underwire in the actual cup itself. Again, no tissue kind of coming out under that. The 4 fitting flat against the chest. And then number 5 was the straps, which are literally just holding the sports bra in place. They shouldn't be digging into your neck or back. Yeah, and if you're getting like neck pain or back pain, there's different types. So the straps could be, again, the 3 predominant ones are kind of a U strap, which is kind of your basic 2 straps that go kind of vertically down the back. You've got racer back, which will mean the straps come together and kind of combine as one, or there's cross strap. So where there's 2 physical straps that kind of cross at the back. But you can also get bras that have kind of can change between maybe a U back and a racer back. They might have a little clasp in the middle and things. So it's just about trying on different ones and seeing what works for you. And Michelle, like, I'm not sure if you can talk about the research, because you were researching for a specific brand as well at times in the University of Portsmouth. I'm not sure if you can. Are you allowed to talk about that?
We don't. We kind of hold our cards close to our chest on brand.
We won't settle that. So, but yeah, like I have got a lot of. I think one of the most common questions are like, what's the best brand? Is there like, it's probably a touchy subject, but like, is there known brands out there, or is it again a matter of like, you know, how could you try on a penny sportswear versus a fucking Nike or something like that? Is there a big difference like in brands?
Yeah, you're like the journalists. We used to get this a lot, so we're well used to it. But as much as there's a thing of when we're in Portsmouth, we work with like a lot of the top brands, so you wouldn't be obviously saying, oh, one brand is better than the other. But there was never a case where we could, because it's really so subjective, depending on what breast size you are, what materials you like, what activities you're doing. Like I would have different sports bras for you doing yoga and Pilates and strength training than I would for running. Like I would never wear my running bra going to the gym just to do a strength workout, because it is a tighter bra in general. It has a racer back clasp at the back, so if I'm lying down on a bench, I don't want to clasp up the top of my back because it's digging into me. So there was never a case where we could go, that's the best one for everyone. That's the best brand, because it just doesn't work like that. Like we've tried to fit women into what we would deem as their appropriate sports bra size even, and trying to get people to conform to that is very hard. It's such a personal thing.
But it's like a lot of things though. People kind of figure that out for themselves over time, innit? You know, like if someone is getting a certain branded runner, they might love it over another certain style or brand. You know, I'm very similar with that kind of stuff. Like some people then hate that and they go the other way. You know, so it's all kind of, it depends type question, you know.
And people have massive brand loyalty as well, like that. So people will stick to, so trying to get people to come away from certain brands if they know it works and if they know it's like value for money in their eyes and things like that is very hard. And they're like, just on kind of the price point, there's no evidence that the more money you spend on a bra, the better bra like you're going to have. So like, and some bras can be up to, I think, 80 pounds, 80 euro. But obviously if you go to different manufacturers, you get them for a lot cheaper. So there's no evidence that spending 80 euro means you're going to have no breast pain and no chafing and it's going to be the best thing that you ever spent your money on. So just go with whatever suits you, whatever works for you and that you like.
Have you found an average price point though? Like, for example, on a personal level, someone might not go for a 90 euro bra unless money wasn't an issue and they like that brand. That's one point. But on average, are you better off saying, look, stay away from the fucking 10 euro bras, go for kind of the 20 to 50 euro range or something like that? Like, is that it depends type thing, or have you seen anything like that yourself? What do you think?
No, we haven't seen anything to say that cheaper bras aren't as effective. So we always will bring people in, because we would be giving, when we were in Portsmouth, we would be giving out incentives of bras like to people, and you'd see people who put on the most expensive one and love it or hate it, and the same with the cheapest one, they take them away with them. So it really is whatever works for you.
Okay,
but
that's good.
We'd be saying when you're in a shop though, to go into the change rooms and try on a sports bra and like do a few jumping jacks or run on the spot. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but how are you going to know? Yeah, I mean, you walk around in runners in a shop, you know? Yeah. You put on the runners and you walk around, or they put you on a treadmill and they do a full gait analysis. I mean, I don't see why it should be any different in a shop. Yeah, bar that you can't walk around the shop. Yeah, but just see if you can kind of mimic any of the activities you're doing.
Yeah, you hear footsteps going super fast inside the dressing room. It makes sense though. Like, geez, you have to, like, you know, there's no point in spending money on a thing and coming home and realize, oh shit, it's not really great for me. But yeah, you kind of, that was one question. You touched on larger breasts. This is a question I got as well. Like, what's best suited for people with bigger busts? I was asked double D plus. But basically, what's more suited for people with larger breasts? I think you mentioned the encapsulation style sports bra. Yeah,
like anecdotally, we'd see a lot of women with larger breasts would only say, oh, I'll only use encapsulation, or that they prefer encapsulation. And some of the research does say that for larger breasts, like, recommends an encapsulation one. So again, you're just trying half that kind of breast mass into 2 individual cups, and as long as it fits well and it's suited to them, then that might be more effective than probably a compression bra anyway. But again, try maybe the combination bras where they have that kind of encapsulation, but that ability to bring your breast kind of back towards the chest wall as well. And then there's a lot of brands nowadays that specialise as well in kind of larger breasted women in sports bras and things like that. So just, do a Google search and you'll see multiple brands that you can kind of order and try them on and things like that. So there's more options nowadays than there used to be. Because I would have seen a lot of girls coming in, especially probably with larger breasts, wearing a everyday bra and then a sports bra on top of it when they'd be exercising. But they wouldn't have known about any of these brands that do kind of sports bras for larger breasted women. So it was just getting them into the right bra, and then it was like their lives were changed. I was like, you shouldn't be wearing an everyday bra with a sports bra on top of it to exercise. You should just have a really good sports bra.
Yeah. But again, it's probably coming back to that thing, what suits you as a person. You mightn't like the encapsulation versus you might love the compression one. But again, trial and error, I suppose, is a big part of it here too. I think the biggest vibe I got of people asking these questions was that they just probably haven't tried enough. But at the same time, now after listening to this episode, there could be more educated to try more varieties and more styles, and they'll be encouraged to go out to look at them in different shops and stuff as well. So it's all good stuff. Probably the last one, Michelle, we mentioned on activity type and the difference between low and high impact bras. You mentioned it there as well for running or for resistance work. You don't need a super tight bra for the gym work, for example, you were saying, were you?
Well, yeah, just a kind of a preference thing, I guess. Personally, my running sports bra that I use is very tight on the underband because I want a lot of support when I'm running. I just don't want to even think that my breasts are moving at all. But if I wear that for an extended period, if I'm sitting at the computer or something before I go do a workout in work for an extended period, I wouldn't be comfortable. But when I'm running, I don't notice it, if that makes sense. So there are, if you look at the labels of sports bras, you'll see some are low, medium, high intensity. High intensity, we would say anything running up, like any of your field sports, anything like that. Low intensity, your yoga, Pilates. And then mid intensity, it really depends, maybe your gym work, depending if you're doing mixed gym sessions. Mid intensity, what is that? It's all relevant to the person, what they do. So yeah, you might have preferences as to kind of comfort factors or the amount you sweat and the impact that has on your bra, on your body, things like that. You might want sweat wicking properties, so you might want bra that has mesh and kind of ventilation and things like that if you're doing Bikram yoga or something. You just have different requirements for different sports. So you probably should be thinking that way, that if I'm going to do a 21k run, I need to pick my very supportive bra because it's a high intensity activity, but it's also going to be on me for 2 hours and I'm going to be sweating a lot. So it needs to have certain kind of maybe functionality of it. But if I'm going to a yoga class for an hour where it's a lot of stretching and relaxation, I probably want a lower intensity, maybe a crop top bra, just that kind of covers all my breast tissue and keeps my breasts towards my chest. So if I'm in downward dog, that everything's covered, but I don't necessarily need the underband to be extremely tight because it's going to be a lot of breathing, if that makes sense.
I'll tell you one thing, men have a little to be worrying about. Poor ladies, I feel sorry for you. The more I find out about the ladies' lifestyle, sports bras is something that I would have even looked into a year ago.
You've never had it as easy, Doc, as well. Yeah. I know many women that will turn up. I remember when we were playing football, one of the girls turned up with no sports bra and she had to ring her husband to come out and bring a sports bra because she's like, I'm not playing the match. We were going to be down a player. It literally, many a time we've gone to go running and work and someone will be like, I have no sports bra, I'm not going. So it shouldn't be the last thing you put into your gym bag, put it that way.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah, if you've seen that lady the last day, you would have got a shock. Absolute shock. Anyhow, Michelle, absolutely fantastic stuff. Is there anything else you'd like to add to finish off, or anything you feel like you might have covered, or what would you leave? What's the next step for someone after listening to this? What would you say for them to go do?
Go and find a good sports shop or order a number of sports bras online or something, but try different ones, and find out probably what suits you, and what's good for you. I think while people don't probably have sports bras that they like or that kind of, I don't know, that help them to exercise and things like that, I think that the market is a lot bigger now than it used to be. So even a Google search, there's good websites out there that specialize in bras and sports bras and things like this. You don't need to spend a fortune, you just need to find out kind of what suits you.
Exactly, yeah, brilliant. And is there anywhere where we can keep up to date, Michelle, with your research or anything like that? Is there any links I can add to the show notes, or what would you like?
Yeah, I can send you on all the kind of research group in breast health from the University of Portsmouth one. They're on Twitter as well. I think they're at UOPRGBH, but I'll send it on to you anyway. So putting up kind of different things there.
I will put all those over in the show notes page anyway, so that is fantastic. Michelle, thank you for coming back on, and we may have you back on in the future to talk more breast stuff if the research slightly changes over time, but that's absolutely fantastic. I know this is going to be a game-changing episode for a lot of ladies, so thank you very much for coming back on.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, Doc.
No problem. So guys, that was Dr. Michelle Norris. So like I said at the start of this episode, over on the show notes page, docfitnessonline/episode 33, if you're looking to download basically the 5 steps that we went through on this episode, your sports bra cheat sheet, you can do that over on the show notes page, and it's a handy little infographic to have even if you might be out trying on sports bras, test them out, or looking to buy them again. It's a nice little reminder to kind of go back over this episode again. So head over to docfitnessonline/episode 33, and you can pop your name and email there to download your sports bra cheat sheet, and we shall chat to you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.